All right, guys, real quick, I want to go over our sponsors. First up, Healthy Made Easy by Mitchell Thompson. Phenomenal book, making nutrition and a healthier lifestyle, very simplified. Go check it out at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Also, he has a gym that's open, Combat Cardio KC. They go hand in hand. If you're trying to meet fitness goals, trying to have fun workouts, that's the place to be. They'll get you right over there. Next up, Yup Strength. Love the smelling salts. Love the pre-workout. Best tasting pre-workout I've ever had. The smelling salts are a hit with everybody. Really does wonders for you during the middle of a hard set. Love what he's doing over there, John. Doing a great job. Our last one, Jit Head Athletics. Jeremy, he's doing a great job with that company. Rash guards are fun, good material. They're doing cool stuff over there. All the TBAP merch is over there. If you guys want to help support the show, I greatly appreciate it. We got rash guards, t-shirts, head on over there. It really helps get the name out. So yeah, thanks again to all our sponsors. Thank you to everyone who watches and listens to the show. Please, if you could, like, share, subscribe. It really helps out. And yeah, we'll get back to the show.
Listening to a couple episodes.
Oh, thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. I do. I appreciate that a lot.
I got through Michael's. So.
You got through Michael's?
Yeah.
Michael, dude. Michael's an awesome dude, man. Such good energy too.
Yeah.
He has I don't know if John is that next week? He has one with John coming out. Or did that already come?
I think did that drop. I want to say
I don't know.
He's just so in my LinkedIn feed.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn shows you like shit from 3 weeks ago and shit from 2 days ago. So
yeah, I don't think he dropped that one yet. I don't think, but I was looking forward to that one because I thought that was pretty. It's just neat how everyone's kind of coming together and like sharing and like hanging out with each other and going on each other's platforms. Yeah, he hasn't released it yet. That must be next week's. But yeah, man. I mean, it's really cool to see. You know, like it was cool to see everybody together in that room when we had that first meeting.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so hopefully we can figure that out. And I think I'm gonna try to go maybe remote or something. Hopefully that'll kind of help people out.
Okay.
And, you know, it's hard to try to meet up and stuff like that, especially with summer coming up and it's like,
right.
You know, everyone's doing shit. Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's not really feasible, but which I don't blame people at all. But yeah, Baer.
What's up?
Is that your real name?
That's not my real name. It's a nickname. I'll tell you that. Yeah. I actually got it from one of my sister-in-law. I had a ton of nieces and nephews that were all around the age of 2 to 4, you know, about 6 or 7 years ago. And yeah, I chased him around the house a lot. That was like, you know, I'm going to get him. And, you know, so it kind of got the name as Uncle Bear.
Uncle Bear.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And then I created an Instagram for kind of the work that I do. And I was like, I need a handle. Yeah. So I just made it Uncle Bear. And then I made all these industry friends and everybody just called me Bear. So I was like, that's okay.
So what is your first name then? Because I actually never asked.
Yeah. So it's Chris.
Chris?
Yeah, but in the line of work that I do, there's like a Chris every 3 feet. Oh, so it helps.
Yeah. Kind of stand out a little bit. Bear.
Yeah, Bear.
Yeah, I've never met a man named Bear, so you're the first one.
I was thinking Bear Grylls, you know?
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that dude.
Right.
You remember when he had that chick piss on his arm? Because he got stung by a jellyfish
or something?
Yeah, and isn't that like a myth or something like that? Like, I don't think that really helps.
Yeah, I don't actually think you're right.
Yeah, I think that's what was funny about it, because he's like, yeah, just pee on my hand. And she's like, okay. She really drops her pants and just pisses right on his hand. And then the whole joke is like, it was kind of like a meme. And then afterwards in the comments, they're like, they do know that doesn't work, right? Like, that's just a whole wives' tale. But
yeah.
I was like, well, he had her piss on him. So, I mean, maybe his sexual fetish of getting pissed on was just fulfilled that day, but who knows? Yeah. But yeah, man, hey, it's nice to meet you. I appreciate you coming on. I've been listening to a lot of your episodes, man. Really cool stuff you're doing. Can you, I kind of want to start out. I'm horrible at this every time, trying to get people's backgrounds. And
no, you're doing great.
Squirrel all over the damn place. But
I like it, though.
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
I feel like that's normal conversation. I mean, I don't think you ever stay on really a direct like path when you're talking to somebody at a bar or out in a garage, hanging out, working on, whatever,
Right.
But if you could just kind of take me through what it is you do, because even myself listening to some of your stuff, it's so much terminology in general, I don't even understand. So I know you work in security, but that can be a wide array of things. So if you could just kind of explain to me what it is you do.
Yeah, definitely. So I run the Security Today podcast, and that is niche to the physical security industry, basically. I started in physical security like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And I was walking through a Target parking lot, and like I was just about to get married. I'm like, I need a career. You know what I'm saying? At that point, I was selling Hot Wheels with a dude who had a warehouse, and he sold on eBay. They still sell. Wheel Collectors is the name of the eBay store. Okay. And we probably had 200,000 Hot Wheels in the warehouse, and we would sell like $36,000-$40,000, like in that range, a month. Of just Hot Wheels. And so I shipped for him. He had a guy who picked for him, who would go out and like buy Hot Wheels and like picture them and all that other shit. And then they would all get organized into these boxes, and then we would get orders.
And you just resell them?
Oh, yeah. And he would get new shit from like Mattel and stuff like that. But we had a lot of like, he would collect old collections who, they've been collecting them for 40 years, and they're all in Tupperware in their garage, and they're like, wife said I got to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying?
They don't make them anymore, probably, so they're worth money.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
And I was like, that probably isn't like long term. Like I should find some sort of career. And I was walking through the Target parking lot. I was like, what about a locksmith? And I don't know, man, if it was divine or what, but it just came out of nowhere. I didn't even really know what they did. But I found like a school that they would mail to me. And I could, like, they'd mail me the key machines and the keys and all this other shit, and have the chapters that you had to go through and send tests back in. And so I got certified through that. And then I had a friend who, a friend of a friend's dad was a locksmith in Olathe, Kansas. Oh, really? And he took me on for, 2 or 3 years. And then I went out on my own and did my business for 2.5 years or so. And then I started pulling wire for like kind of like low voltage contractors around the Kansas City area. So I did kind of all of that. And all that means is that like there's a really broad technology sector called low voltage. And it's anything and everything from your Wi-Fi to your network to nurse call to fire alarms to the whole thing, right? And I kind of play in the physical security sphere of that. So when you badge your card to get into the building, like those systems, access control, right now I engineer and I spec for a company that I work for out of Kansas City to put in.
Oh, nice.
And then we also do like intrusion or alarm systems and video surveillance. And so that's kind of the small, well, I wouldn't say small. It's a huge industry, but that's like the narrow view of what I play with every single day. But because of the way of the world, like you were asking me about that Pegasus software. This week, because of the way of the world, it's like cyber and physical are kind of touching at this point.
Oh, really?
So I'm like cyber adjacent. Like I have to know shit because we put out servers to keep, the video footage from like the Sprint Center
getting hacked,
right?
Or something.
Yeah. And so,
or even homeowners. I mean, think about it. A lot of people have like Ring cameras in their house and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure Ring has some sort of fraud team or anti-spy or whatever it's called team to be able to watch that shit. I mean, dude, I don't know about you, but I walk around my house naked sometimes almost, and I don't want other people to see that shit.
That to be out on the internet.
Underwear. For sure. Which, man. I mean, good luck, because, you got webcams, I've heard they can even hack TVs if they want.
There was a TV from, who was it? I don't know if it was Vizio, but there was a TV.
I remember that. I remember that.
Kind of getting hacked left and right.
That's why. And speaking of like the locksmith side of it, you don't see very many. Like I know we have like McGilly over here. McGuire. Yeah. Because I've used them quite a bit of times over the years. And they're always nice people. Go in there, they make whatever I need.
Definitely.
Especially like car keys and stuff like that. They'll program them.
Which
a lot
I
cheaper
do too.
than the dealership.
Yeah, I
Shit.
do that too.
Oh, do you?
On the
Nice.
side, I program auto keys.
That's cool.
Because that's a big business too. Man.
Yeah, dude. I'm always losing keys or break one on accident
Yeah.
or something, you know. Then you got to buy them on Amazon and shit, and hopefully know someone that can, you know, like you guys to program them. Because if not, I think I was looking one time, the dealership's like a couple $100, like to get that program.
Oh, yeah.
When you can go to a locksmith and they'll do it for like $80 or whatever it costs.
Depending on the car, yeah.
Depending on the car or how much work
Sometimes it's half the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
But the locksmiths,
yeah,
you don't see a ton of them.
And why is that?
So,
is it like a dying art?
You know, you would think, and it is kind of a dying.
Because I know everything's
trade.
More of like I see they have machines now to where they don't have to like file try to match it up. Like they have these machines, they put it in, it scans the old one, and then makes a new one for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot more to that than just that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of guys who have been in it for like 40 years.
Yeah.
They have a brick and mortar like McGuire, you know, and the trades in and of themselves are having a hard time getting people into them. Okay. From everything from electricians to plumbers, like we're at a huge trade deficit,
right?
As a country,
yeah.
And so locksmiths, you can imagine, are a tiny piece of that big puzzle, from HVAC to plumbing and this and that. So they're having an even harder time getting in it. But the problem with it is that locksmithing and like installing and maintaining hardware on doors commercially is growing at like 2 or 3% a year.
Really?
And so just because of everything that's getting built. And so you have this big need for them. But the last I was reading a report a couple months ago, building some facts about this because I wanted to talk about it on my podcast.
Yeah.
We're losing in North America about like 1,500 to 2,000 people out of the locksmith industry a year. And you already think like you can only name like one or two.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I have a big passion for that because that's kind of where I started, you know? And so in the future, I'd like to be in owning, you know, a lock shop or a security outfit like that, just to help kind of preserve that and push it into the future because we need it. For sure.
No, for sure. I completely agree. Hey, here, one second.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in your face.
No, you good.
You mind scooting over just a tad?
I can.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good, man.
Yeah, sometimes I have issues with that arm being in people's faces, and then I don't see it, and then I go back to look at the video, and I'm like,
it's just like a microphone.
It's just like right in their face, and I don't know if that chair leaks or what. Sometimes it goes down. I don't know if it's up all the way, but yeah, that's crazy. I wonder why people aren't wanting to get into it. I wonder if it's just something you know, everybody wants to go tech nowadays. All the younger kids are wanting to go in towards that direction.
I just wonder if it's cultural.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not a ton of, I don't see a ton of content. Let's say that way. You know, like on Instagram
they're not
or
with
Facebook.
The times, kind of pushing the trade and making it more hip to the younger generation.
Like I'm wearing this hat with the cicada on it. It's a guy out of Arizona. Now I don't know. His name's Frankie, but he owns Cicada Systems, and he's a guy that I've communicated for a long time with on Instagram. And he goes to schools and he takes like this big backboard that's got all the access control and security stuff on it, and he like lets the kids like wire it up and see how it works and stuff. And so, but he's the only one that I know that does that.
And that's really neat because I'm the same way. I just had a conversation with someone earlier today who keeps asking me, you know, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Like career-wise? Because right now I'm machining. I've been machining for a long time. I've been a project manager for like 4 years. And so I've gone back and forth in those worlds.
Yeah.
And project management I don't like the construction side of things. I just like sometimes culture, you know, in those fields. You know, working, you have 50, 60 hours, you know. And, you know, I got to have work-life balance. Call it what you want, me being a bitch or not being a man. I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm
there with you.
I'm there. I got to have a balance, man, because I've worked that 50, 60, 70 hours and I was miserable than ever. And I see a lot of guys like that in those fields that they take pride, and I respect them. You know, they're getting money, they're taking care of their families, and but you're miserable, you know, and there's got to be that balance. So when I'm when they ask me like, what career do you want? I have to get my hands on it. You know, I have to see, or I have to know someone that we can talk for like a couple hours a day, like explaining to me like what they do and how they do it, and even showing me, like if they can show me on their laptop or something. And that way I can get a gist of it, or even watching like a day in the life on YouTube of somebody in that trade. That helps too. Mm-hmm. But some people aren't like that. Some people are just like, I want to be a dentist, or I want to be an electrician. Like they already know, like they've seen a little bit of it to know. Me, I need like in depth, because I think I just get a little worried to switch into something else that what was that even for? Like, I don't even like this shit. Like now I'm back at square one. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna make a move, I want it to be something that I'm going to like. Now I'm not stupid. I know that nobody after a while loves their job. It becomes a job. You know what I mean? I get that. So I just, find something that you're content enough to not wake up and want to call in every morning. That's what I want to find. But in order to do that, I think that's great. You getting your hands on that stuff. Like, I'm sure that was probably a job fair or something for high school students.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't remember really ever going to those when I was in school. I don't know if that's like a VOTEC thing or what that is. I don't think that, maybe once in my junior high school career, there was something like that. Right.
But I don't remember standing in front of like an electrician or a plumber.
Or going to like different booths and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't remember that.
I remember outside of like during college, they would have something like that.
Yeah. And then I went to college for a brief second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they would tell
philosophy kind of ran me out of there, which is funny because now I like books like, meditations and shit like that. I wish I would have really stayed in them. But
did you go for philosophy?
No, but it was one of the classes I had.
Okay.
And it was just a very difficult class for an 18-year-old to understand at the time who thought he knew everything.
Right.
So after like 3 months, and it wasn't even just that class. I've always been a big history guy. I loved history class a lot. But I just fell out, I was like, man, I'm a blue collar guy. I'll just get a job and the trades. And at the time it worked, but it's kind of flipped. And I hear all these guys discussing in the trades how you can make a lot of good money. And I'm not going to argue with that, but not everybody. And usually the sacrifice to make that money is you got to work a lot of hours to make that 120 grand a year. You're putting in 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
So there's a trade-off, which if you're good with that, you're good with that. But
right. That's not something that I've always tried to keep it, that work-life balance. I've always tried to keep my family first.
Yeah.
And it's led to probably more company jumps than most people. Mm-hmm. And actually, the place I'm at now, I sat in the interview and he's like, hey, it looks like you last about a year and a half at all these jobs. Why is that? And I was like, well, that's because about a year and a half in, somebody else sees more value in me.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want to keep people, if you want to take care of your employees, then you can't just take care of them with money, because the business will run dry, because everybody would like some more money, especially with the economy that we're in, right?
Right.
But if you take care of them a little bit with that, and then a little bit with other benefits and stuff like that, then you can create a really good culture. But there was like, I'd work for about a year and a half at a job, and then I'd get on LinkedIn, I'd start looking.
Yeah. Mine's 3. That's about 3, and then I'm like, all right, I'm itching.
Yeah.
But if I could find things quicker, if there was more shops out there that were a little better,
right,
I would be with you about a year.
What do you machine?
I've done aerospace for pretty much, I want to say like 12 years. Right now I'm doing a bunch of like water parts, like pressure regulators and stuff like that. So pretty much, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of CNC machines. So, I take a piece of material, a raw piece of material, whatever shape it's in. Some of them are castings, some of them are just blocks.
Right.
I pretty much set up everything fixturing wise, offset wise, tooling wise, get the machine ready to go, able to interpret drawings and
like out of CAD or?
Well, everything's already done for us. So programmers will take care of everything. They have the CAD CAM system. So they'll run like an NX software or Mastercam software or whatever. And then they'll spit basically the setup sheets out. Hey, this is where all your coordinates are. These are your tools. This is what a little model of what the part looks like laying in your fixture or your vise or whatever it is. And then, so my job is to be able to interpret that information and get that machine running with that information that they gave me. So that's kind of where my skill sets come in. Like I know how to use indicators and edge finders and calipers and micrometers and stuff like that. I set it up and I turn basically that piece into a finished product and then just send it out the door to get painted or whatever they're going to do with it.
Are water parks hot right now?
I guess, man. This company, shit, man. The company I'm working at right now, if they see this, they deserve this. But they are just ran so poorly. I mean, just so poorly. It's. Yeah. I've never seen anything. I've worked at some small shops, man, and I have never seen a shop ran this way in my life. It actually, I feel a little bad how I could kind of be a little hard on some of the other companies, you know, because I want better, you know, for the company, because, you know, hopefully that'll come to me, which a lot of times doesn't happen. But I at least I try to have faith and trust, you know what I mean? Because I feel like when you become that person of, well, one person burned me, so now fuck them all. You know, they're all going to be the same. I think that's just a wrong attitude to have. Yeah. So every shop I'd be at, I'd be like, you know, well, this is a new one. Let's help them out, you know, give my input. Yeah. Help this company grow. And also too, to be honest, I'll be selfish about it, make my job easier. Yeah. Because this whole culture of some of the guys I've worked with of when you go into work, you should just be running around with your head cut off. It's like, why do I want to do that? Why, when we can optimize and create processes and procedures and, you know, a nice workflow to where you know what's going on, your material arrives, you set it up, you create the product, it sends it out the door. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their job and we just do that, copy and paste. And so that's kind of how I've always looked at things. And this place is just, yeah, they're on a whole nother thing. But that's kind of what happens when you get like a bunch of corporations and investors buying shit and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they just hire some fucking guy that they think is going to run this place all right. And you got everybody screaming that he's not, and it's a whole ordeal. Hopefully they end up changing that, but so it's not bad. It's cool. You know, I don't know how the industry is. I don't look that deep in on it. Like my heart kind of left machining a while back. I've been trying to get out of it for a minute. I just kind of use it as a job that I go to. I give my 100%. I give my 100% of my paycheck. I go home type shit, you know, to be able to help fund my family and then also to give me the time I need to focus on this stuff. Cause I mean, you know how it is, man, the prep work prior and, you know, talking with people, getting ready, mentally ready for someone to come and sit in front of you that maybe you possibly have never met. Most of my guests, this is the first, luckily I've met you at that meeting that we had at the Scar Lounge. So that was kind of cool to be able to have that. But most people, it's like, I just text you. Like that's all I've ever, we haven't even a phone call or anything, which I need to probably get better at. But so getting prepared for all that stuff and doing all that and listening to content, this work allows me to listen to a lot of content. I've got my headphones in most of the time. So that really helps to be engaged, especially when it comes to like politics or being able to listen to other people's podcasts. Cause I hear that all the time from, people who work maybe a 9 to 5 where they're dealing with clients or they're always interacting with somebody, so they can never have that alone time. And they always make the comment of like, oh, there's just so many out there. I just don't have the time and blah, 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 which you can find time, car, cleaning, working on something, you know, working out. But I can consume a lot because I work 8 hours a day and I'm by myself most of the time. So I'm able to consume a lot of content, which has helped out. You know,
no, I agree with that, man. And I always feel like the people that I've had on to interview, they have like this advantage because they can listen to hours of me if they'd like. Yeah. So they have this concept of me, but I have no concept of them. Yeah. And so when they come on, you're kind of like, as the host, you're like feeling it out for about 15 minutes.
And that can get scary, ain't it? Because you're like, well, fuck, because at some point, some people just stop talking and then you're like, oh, shit, I'm not ready. Yeah. And then you're like just sitting there like, and trying to think of something on your notes, you know, to come off the whim. Because it's hard to kind of keep that going back and forth. You kind of got to, you know, I think practice makes perfect. You know, after a while, it's like working out, you know, it just becomes a little easier, you know. For sure. It's same with conversation.
It's a muscle.
Yeah, I really learned that because like Believe it or not, I was a very quiet guy growing up. Around friends, I'd be a lot more open, but in public, I was very quiet. And I worked in machining, which is a very isolating job. You're by yourself pretty much 8 to 12 hours a day. And when I started this, like, yeah, it was different, you know, and luckily when I started the podcast I had prior, I had done it with a couple of buddies, which was fun. You know, they could help balance the workload of the conversation.
Right.
But I really gained, I feel like, conversational skills when I started doing project management work, because then I was like in meetings and I was dealing with people and all sorts of different people. And so you learn how to kind of navigate around different personalities. So
yeah, if you want to test your communication skills, project management is where to do it.
Yeah.
And to be totally frank, there's not a lot of project managers that have good communication skills.
There's
you know?
not, that's for sure. It's kind difficult. And I'm surprised that trade hasn't kind of, I mean, that's not really a trade, but that position hasn't really died out, because it's a tough job, dude. At least from my experience when I was in construction, I felt like a punching bag between the office and in the field, and it's like, I'm trying to help both you fucks here. Like, what do we, you know, I'm not the take out anger, you know what I mean? Because I'm the messenger in between you guys. Like, so I could see how it can rub people wrong. And plus it's hard. You're out there, you're having to put on a face, because, you know, not every day you feel like talking to people, but you have to. Right. And you kind of just got to put on a mask and just go through the motions.
That's curious, because I don't know if I've known a project manager that has been in it for like 50 years, you know? And I've had to talk with project managers. I project managed a little bit for a while, but I mean, you get guys that have been in it 6 to 8 years or something like that, but you never get that guy who's like been doing sales for 40 years, you know? Yeah. And so it's like, maybe the turnover there.
It's tough.
Is bigger.
I think sometimes I make it a little more, and I can't speak for every business, just the ones I've worked at. A lot of the smaller businesses, they just kind of make your job impossible, you know, and they act as if it's not, you know, and you got to listen to your employees, man. I'm not saying all of them are telling you the truth, and I'm not saying like to take their word as gospel, but just listen to them. You know, me and Michael talked about that. If you listen to your employees and just kind of hear them out, and stop looking at it as them bitching, like, I'm paying you, just shut the fuck up. It's like, no, we're humans, guys. Like, we're all human beings here. Now, and I get it, some people are just complainers. I totally get that. But I've talked to a lot of people that have mentioned some really like, you know, things that I believe that need to be focused on in order to switch the culture of that trade or that shop or whatever it is, you know, because we can't, you wonder why everyone's running into the tech world. I mean, look at what they're doing. You know, they may be offering things that is not being offered in these fields that people are attracted to, because they're like, oh man, like, I feel like I get treated better. I have more freedom, or less micromanagement, or less somebody hovering above me, and you know, all sorts of things it could be. But I do feel like the trades are pretty old head still, and that's kind of the problem with locksmithing. You know, you get these old head guys who they know how to turn keys, but they don't know how to necessarily do business or they
marketing.
Also know how to run people out too. That's a huge issue. I don't know if you dealt with that, you know, going through that world, in the world you're in, but in machining, like, I was dealing with guys that didn't want to teach me stuff. They looked at me as a threat. You know, they taught me as minimal as possible, or kept me down at a point because they felt like they had job security. And
was it older guys?
Yeah, it was always older guys.
Dude, I think it's because in World War II, they pushed this like security through obscurity. Like, keep your lips closed, don't tell people, because back then it was like you couldn't really be outed by media if you were running rumors, or if you were like, you couldn't really like get caught giving stuff out, right? So it was like this cultural vibe. There's this poster that I have saved on my computer that it's a woman, and she's got like a short like 50s haircut with like the army like cap thing, and she's like putting her fingers to her lips saying like security through obscurity, like, don't do that. And I wonder if that just like permeated and like stayed in those people.
Was that because of the things they were making, or was that because they were worried about their careers because jobs were scarce?
Well, no, I think it was like, don't share secrets, so that there was a culture of, we're not going to tell maybe a Russian spies or something like that, what we're doing, or German spies or something.
That kind of got passed
And
down.
so then it was like, it kind of, and I've seen this, especially in security, like you start with military grade tools, understanding, processes, theories, and then they kind of work themselves into like your commercial sector. For instance, there is a security theory called CPTED. It's CPTED. Stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And in architecture and security design, it's using the environment to kind of like help humans biologically change behavior or manipulate behavior. So like in apartment complexes, oftentimes you'll find like hedges or fences that go all the way around the complex. And this is called territorial reinforcement, where like you now live there, and because of this fence line, if somebody's inside of it and they're suspicious, you're more likely to call on them, right? Because you have this understanding that this is my space,
right?
Because I'm an ape from, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And so there's things like that got started from the military side of things. And then they kind of work their way down into when we build apartment complexes.
Right.
So if there's this idea of like, don't share secrets, it could easily work itself down into like a no worries, work itself down into like a corporate world where you don't share it, because that's huge with locksmiths. Like, and most locksmiths I know, I mean, they're over 50, right? But it was this idea that like, don't show anybody. If they figured out a way to key a cylinder or make a lock system work in a certain way, they would rarely tell their employees, maybe an apprentice that they trusted, but it would be like, don't tell anybody else. But now with YouTube and with media and with like how broad commercial security is, it's like you could find that. I could find out how to do that from somebody else. And so now sharing is actually the benefit. Because if I share within my team, I can build a team that outshines the next guys. Right? Instead of sharing it and they pass it to the next guys and he makes more money than I do.
Yeah, and I think they're also worried. I think a lot of companies, 'cause I've been seeing like training really go out the window. Like they want to just find people who are already trained. They want to hire them. Like you got to know how to already do this. We don't have time to get you all up to speed. And I think also the concept is that if we train you, you're just going to take that and leave for a higher paying job. Right. It's like, well, okay, well, just negotiate with them. Just say, hey, man, we're going to give you 3 months. We're going to train you up. After that 3 months, if you're doing good and you've caught on, we're going to bump you up in money, instead of just hanging out for a full year.
No one does that, though.
No one does that. Why do you think that is? Like, what is that? I don't understand. Is it just another old way of thinking, and that's just been ingrained throughout generation to generation of just, this is how it goes, this is how it is, this is how business is conducted?
That's got to be some of it. And I mean, look, I won't shy away from being open enough to think that like when you're running the business, it does matter. You're trying to keep the lights on.
I get it.
You're thinking about the next thing to go wrong. And so any more money out the door is like a future promise that I don't know if I can keep if we lose a contract or if we don't continue to grow. So I do understand that, but it doesn't seem, it seems like bigger companies and bigger companies that I've worked for where they tell you their numbers. Like we did 15 mil this year.
That's what I'm saying. You see the profit of, or out of that 15 mil, they profited 4. I don't know. Let's just say 4 million.
Right. Sure.
And then they just give you a free hoodie, company hoodie for Christmas. You know what I mean? Thanks. What about the Christmas coming? Is there a bonus? Bro, I haven't received a bonus in years. In fucking, well, no, I've little bonuses like $100 gift card, which I'm grateful for. You gave me something at least, but you're telling me how much you guys are making a year, and I can add up how many employees and how many $100 whatever gift cards, Walmart gift cards you gave us. Like, it's not, and I get it's your company. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I just think it's kind of fucked up. What happened to the whole, you see in the movies from back in the day, and it's like, waiting on that $3,000 check because, you got that bonus for the year. Right. What I mean? And I think that would help incentivize people more instead of just saying, we have overtime. You can work a lot of overtime. Make some money.
I feel like they don't maybe it's just not a common understanding. And I believe this is that if you run it a little thinner because you're giving it out to the people that are running it, then they'll run it better.
Yeah.
And then if they run it better, you make more.
Yeah.
And so it might feel as if in the beginning, that's too much to give out.
Mm-hmm.
But to know on the other side of that, if I give that out, people feel taken care of. People want to be secure in a job.
And people don't want to move.
Right.
I hate going from job to job. Like sometimes it's nice, but it's probably because I'm just sick of the fucking place I'm at.
Yeah.
But like, I would love to stay at a place that's just like, man, I've got 6 weeks of PTO. I've got, I'm making good bonuses every year. Like I'm getting paid good.
Hell
like,
yeah.
Everybody wants that, but that's just not realistic. And I feel like a lot of the times the people get blamed for instead of the companies, and they're calling us lazy and us ungrateful and us all these names, and when really it's not. We're just telling you how we feel, and what we're going through. And if you don't want to hear that, then that's whatever, but don't be upset when you have a huge turnover rate and you're having to use, I mean, how many companies are using recruiters and these temp agencies and shit? Like
some are in-house
for a reason, I
got recruited to a national company that had in-house recruiters.
Yeah, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
And when it used to be back in the day, it's like, dad was working there, and dad, it got him what he needed, and he brought his son up through it, or daughter, or whatever, and that's how that company stayed afloat. And now it's like, no, you gotta pay people to go find people.
I wonder if it's like also cultural in that the company cares about what it looks like on your feed, and then it cares about the dollar. But it feels like leadership is overall is forgetting what the company had a purpose to do,
right?
And if that purpose was still fulfilling leadership, then maybe they'd be a little looser with giving out a little more money.
Oh yeah, because
they're like, well, we're doing what I want to do. I want to provide security to Kansas City. I want people to have secure workplaces so that they can make it home,
Yeah.
And so if that's my mission, then if people want to join in that, I'll pay them well, you know?
Yeah. And I think the leadership's also incentivized to, create cuts and wasteful, wasteful funds that are going out, or, to be able to, basically make the numbers look right on that charts and graphs that they're going to send out quarterly to whoever's higher up than them, so they can get their 13% bonus or whatever, So like, they're not thinking of people, they're thinking of numbers the entire time. How do I make the numbers look right? Well, we can't fix this, but we can cut Todd, Steve, and Pedro, and we could send them out you know what I mean? They're just, it's like a game, and not I'm not saying everywhere's like that, but there's a lot of shops that's how they think. They don't, I've heard comments even at the place I work. I mean, they don't look, some of those people don't look at us as people. It's just, it's business,
Yeah. And you get away from that when people start investing or you start getting bought.
Yeah.
If the company isn't being led by somebody who either helped start it or came into it and got into leadership, then you kind of get that it's more numbers focused.
And they're almost cookie cutter a lot of the times too. They're almost like cut and paste. It's the same dude with horrible people skills, and he's just good at fucking zoning in and creating something out of fucking nothing somehow by manipulating and moving shit around and creating better process.
Right.
So like they're almost the same. And me and Michael discussed that on the podcast when he was on with me. It's like he said it'd almost be better to have two individuals, one that is good in that aspect with being inventive and know how to make better processes and stuff like that for that company, and then having one that understands the people side of things and is more in touch with the floor. I mean, I've heard comments of people saying like, oh, don't eat lunch with your employees because you don't want to mix that. It's like, what are
that feels old hat too.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Like, is it 94? Like, what are we doing here?
The other day, there's somebody stealing from the vending machines, and they've got these nice, almost kitchens, pretty much. It's It's like a big vending machine, but it's just out, so you can just take shit.
Right.
And you're supposed to scan it on the computer. Well, it's got cameras and stuff like that watching, and they know who it is.
Yeah.
but they're like, oh, we're not going to fire him. It's like, but if it happens again, we're just taking away the whole vending machine from the floor. And it's
real
like,
cool, guys.
What's the camera for?
Yeah, tell us who it is.
Yeah, to tell us. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what we all say. Tell us who it is, and we'll take them out back. You know, well, I only get a Celsius out of there every morning. I don't really get much food out of there, but it's like it's a stupid mentality. It's like the whole team thing where everyone's going to suffer. It's like it's so dumb, man. But to hop back on the topic of security, I wanted to talk to you about. I don't know how. So I understand that you do the locksmith side, but you're also in on like you did the grid mapping stuff. The episode I shared today about how to help detect school shootings faster than what they're being detected, and it kind of blew my mind, dude. I love listening to like episodes like yours. You know, you're funny. You make it the flow is nice. Like you're not just cut and dry, you know, just like facts. Like it's not like that. It's like I'm listening to a human being, you know, a normal dude that just wants to have fun, but also talk about something that he's interested in and help maybe come up with some solutions that people could implement to stop these things. And help me try to explain your idea on this, because I'm probably going to butcher it, but pretty much when you're explaining grid mapping, you are creating like almost like serialized numbers on a map. And that way they know which quadrant, I guess you would call it, like they're in at the moment. So that way when you call 911, you can be like, hey, they're in quadrant SQ2. And that way they know, not, I think he's out there by a tree and, you know, a red car or some shit like that. Like, so you're able to do, you know, have that map, and then they're better able to locate, or even worse, like if he's in the school, we don't know where he's at. And if you're able to give that, they're able to have a map maybe on like some sort of iPad, the cops or SWAT, and be able to go in there and know exactly and pinpoint where they could possibly be at last.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's almost exactly it. So I had an episode, I have a segment on my podcast called The Room Where It Happens, and it's interviewing security individuals that are well known, or they're, you know, high operating in my mind. And so I want to get them on and just kind of glean from their wisdom. Yeah. One of them I had was with David Reedman, and he's actually less of a security professional and more of a data analyst. And he's created something called the K through 12 school shooting database. And he's got a website. It's all on his own time. And he has cataloged from 1960 or like 1963 up until now, every school shooting that has happened in the United States of America. Really? And so with that, he comes with kind of this understanding and this wealth of knowledge to know where trends are or what weak points are when it comes to this situation that we're dealing with as a nation. And he wrote an article on grid mapping that I was talking about in that episode that I called Grid Mapping. And it's exactly that idea. So it's a free way that schools, then the school can do this themselves, the administration. They can take the school from a Google image and they can then just quadrant and grid map it, kind of like you're playing bingo, right? And then they give that to the faculty that is on staff, and they give that to the authorities, and then they have pretty much a language of communication to say that, hey, 911, what's your emergency? This is so-and-so at whatever elementary school. There's a school shooting happening right now. The last we know of, he was in quadrant Q1, and we haven't seen him. I'm down here. And then they also can have a blueprint map of their building, or just a fire plan, and quadrant that as well, and put labels underneath your classrooms to show the classroom what quadrant it's in.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. They have like fire escape plans like up on the walls. Yeah. So what just integrated into that plan. Yeah.
And so then they can take that with those labels, and if a teacher's calling and they've got multiple people on the phone that are in the school and the event is happening, then what they can do is they can like look at their classroom nameplate and be like, I'm in A1 and he's down the hall, I can see him, you know? Yeah. And then at least the police officers now have the advantage of knowing that they don't have to like slowly creep in through the front door because they might, interact with the shooter right there.
Yeah, they can get in.
Yes,
they know that his last whereabouts was 2-3 minutes ago in this place. Yeah, he's on the other side of the, or at least entrance wise. Why enter on this side when he's way on the other fucking side of the building?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that I was very interested in Uvalde when it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole scene was just a picture perfect way to not do a school shooting from a administration or emergency responder side.
Which one was the Uvalde one?
Uvalde was down in Texas. It was near the border, and it was a kid that was pretty disturbed. He lived with his grandparents, I think, and he drove a truck and it hit an embankment, and so he walked onto the school grounds. And it was a couple of buildings that it was like segmented, more kind of like a church or something.
I remember this one. Was this the one where the cops took like an hour to get it? Yeah.
And they stayed in the hallway for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how that landed, like what the excuse out of that was, if it was fear or self-preservation.
I thought the police commissioner got fired.
He did.
Yeah.
He got let go. And so that was just kind of my first school shooting that kind of came on the map in my career, where I'm like, I just fell into it, like every single detail I was looking at. And that's how I discovered David Riedman and what he was doing. And and it's just interesting. One thing that David blew my mind on when I had him on my podcast is he was talking about how the majority of school shootings, like I want to say upwards of 95, maybe up %, are school shootings from habitual gun carriers on school grounds.
Really?
So these are kids that have carried a pistol in multiple times in their backpack, and it is almost always an altercation, whether it's at a football game or it's in passing period or something, that the gun comes out and it fires a shot or something. And it's not the school shooting that the media usually use to
propagandize.
To get those views. And it's not the school shooting that we see in movies where it's like everyone's on the ground, we don't know where he is. Very Columbine-esque. But what it is that it's just kids who have access to firearms, and they don't usually, almost always, don't have a good parent-to-kid relationship, and they get on grounds and they get into a fight. And so one of the things in security that the security industry has really tried to fix this solution with technology. And while it is something that I believe is a good aid in helping this situation, it's not really something that is going to be solved, or at least see a tremendous decline in, unless we're dealing with the people.
Right.
And so you'll hear like they'll have like glass breaks, or they'll have like gunshot detection systems that go in, and if a gun goes off, it can tell you where it was when it went off, and put it on your computer screen on a map and say, this is the last time a gun was shot, it was right here, and stuff like that. And
which I've heard you say on that episode that's not even as accurate, or it's kind of faulty.
And so that was actually out of some of David Riedman's analytics as well, is that it just doesn't do what it's promoted to do.
Right.
So something like grid mapping, or something like he also talked in that article a lot about the relationship between faculty and child, and how to spot behaviors and how to remedy those behaviors. Not necessarily be like, hey, we called the cops because this kid's a weirdo, he's choking a bird at recess, and now we're at his fucking front door, like, what's wrong with them? And some dipshit parent or grandparents like, well, I don't know, it's nothing, you know. And then the next thing you know, they handed them the rifle that went off in the school. So it's something like, it's finding that behavior, and then when you go to remedy it, like being that ally or that aid, and using technology in the vein of, there are text messages or like forum type apps that kids can get specific to their school. And if they're worried about another kid, they can, text in anonymously and be like, this is the kid, and, they're my friend, and they're just saying some kind of disturbing things. And that's a ton of ways to just kind of help the solution. But the problem is that it gets in front of media. The security industry goes, oh, we can make money off gun detection systems, so we'll sell those because they're hella expensive. Or we'll sell metal detectors and say that it catches all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you got a knife in the school. Like, what the fuck happened? Or the media comes out and goes, well, it's the guns, or it's the the faculty needs to carry guns, or the faculty, guns should be outlawed in the city, or like they start attacking these symptoms to a root cause that aren't going to fix anything.
Yeah, it's like a Band-Aid to underlying symptoms.
Exactly. So I would encourage you to look into David Reedman if that stuff's interesting to you.
What do you think could have been done to prevent Uvalde?
Uvalde. I think Uvalde. Yeah. Uvalde, obviously, like all school shootings that happen with like a single predator going through the school, just firing shots, looking for a kill count. That is usually it's always a complicated problem. Right. So there's many layers to it. A tremendous, from my side, physical security aspect, a tremendous error was that they weren't using their doors properly. And so they had prop doors because I think it was hot, in Texas, and their air conditioning system and the funds to upgrade that or whatever.
That's insane. That's even an issue.
Yeah, I know.
What government building do you know has a prop door open because their AC's not working?
Yeah, probably more than you'd like to believe.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we work in federal and stuff like that. And you'll go in
so
there.
They're dealing with the same shit as well.
Yeah. But there was, they had prop doors. They didn't have, they didn't have a system that was well practiced in place. Another thing that they do is like that's pushed in our kind of adjacent industry of like law enforcement / private security. They push this like drills and practices that they go through.
Drills.
Yeah. Sometimes they go through that with the kids, and psychologists have put out studies that show that it's like more traumatic than like having them go through that one-time event, where if they're practicing that annually, that the kids are involved, or they'll do it with the staff, and it's just not as effective as it would seem that it would be statistically if you put it on paper.
Yeah, because they were doing active shooter drills even when I was a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a while.
And finally, I'm happy that the I think the FBI or the CIA, whichever one, put out the run, hide, fight method. So there's like a video from them on YouTube that you can go watch, and they kind of walk through if there was a shooting in a club, and it's the most effective response for something that doesn't have a process already in place. So you might have a process already in place in like a school to say that if there's a school shooting, these are the steps that we do. Emergency response, these are the steps that you do. But if you're just like out in a Costco and a gun goes off and all of a sudden somebody's shooting everybody they can find, the method of run, hide, fight is the best way to approach the situation. So the first, and this is one thing that I have a school, like an online school called Black Picket Fence, and I teach things that are pretty specific to like access control. But on there, I have a PDF for operational security. And one of the games that my wife and I will play sometimes, which is kind of morbid, but we play this game when we're in like Costco and when we're in a big like a place, that sometimes her or I will randomly just be like, bang. And you have to tell me where the first exit is, where the closest exit is.
Bro, I thought I was insane. I do that shit too. Dom, you do that shit? I'm always looking for exits and shit, bro. Like, or I'm watching people.
Right.
Or I'm just looking at like environmental awareness, man. I mean, I remember I came across a Tim Kennedy video, and he was like even breaking down cars to, if you needed to break into a car for an apocalyptic situation, he's like, if you want to find a gun, look for that F-150 raised up on big mud tires. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. You know, like, like these are things that you need to be aware of. And I've always been that dude, like back to the wall, always looking at the door, kids in front of me. Yeah. Looking at people, looking at how they're moving. And I people watch in general, but
me too.
Just like, I'm just watching movements, and because you never know, man. Like, cause my thing is, it's like you build that habit and you do that everywhere you go. It's a 50-50 chance that it pays off. Like you're aware, and 100%. You can save your family or yourself.
Yeah, it's higher than 50, bro.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's like, I think that you should be doing it, and I honestly think, men wise they should do it, but anybody, women, because you're not with your man all the time. Like, definitely. You're out with your kids by yourself at a park or something. Like, and you know how many women I talk to that get harassed by just creepy dudes. Like, it's so odd, man. Like, if you ever ask a woman like, hey, how is it when you're with your boyfriend? It's like, oh, everything's fine, or your husband. And then it's like, yeah, but when he's not there, it's like, I don't know, all these creeps come out and like they go through a lot. So them being situationally aware is a big thing as well too.
Yes, it is. And honestly, it's not like culturally taught. Like you'll get it in these veins of maybe people that are into the interests of you or I, that you get like Tim, you run into Tim Kennedy on a podcast and then he's got you thinking about it, or you're into firearms, which comes with a lot of training around safety. And so you're already thinking of those things. But for the majority of the population, they're just highly unaware. Incredibly unaware. And then the problem with that is that while that's the 90% of people, that's almost 100% of the people you're going off of when you're a first responder or a police officer and you need information about what just happened.
I know.
So it's like, oh, great. So you're taking this information, but this guy doesn't even know how many people were in the store.
Yeah, he didn't know what color the car was.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or at least a make.
Yeah.
So you may not get a model. What was it? Was it a Ford? Like, can you tell me that?
So, yeah, but to wrap that back around, so like the method of run, hide, fight is you always start out, you run. You get to the nearest like exit. If you can't run, then you hide. And if you can hide, if you hide and then it pans out that you're going to interact, then you fight.
Right.
And when you fight, usually fighting in numbers helps. And so this video goes over like you should fight in numbers. One person needs to go after the hands on the firearm. Another person needs to go after the face. And so like there are just little things like that you just carry in the back of your head. And if it ever happens, it's going to help you tremendous.
Dude, I'm glad you brought that up. You said it's the run, hide, fight.
Run, hide, fight. Yeah.
Because I've never been a big fan of the way they do things in schools where it's like, lock the door, get under a desk. Yeah. And like, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a specialist when it comes to that, but it just seems like you're waiting to get killed.
Yeah, no, 100%.
He or she knows you're in the fucking classroom.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest, probably a he.
How many? I think it is.
Yeah, I was saying, what's the percentage of dudes shooting up schools? Probably fucking 99%.
Yeah, 99.9.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And so it's like, why do that when instead of creating? But I remember running some drills where they had us lining up outside and shit like that too. Like we'd have to exit the building, or maybe it was a fire drill. That might have been a fire drill.
I do remember like you would have like a police event in the area.
They made us go out with our hands on our heads.
Oh, to like
after the drill was done, they made you exit outside and you had to have your hands up to show that you weren't like a threat or anything like that.
Which that's good. You're teaching you're running that. You're teaching the weird kid who's going to shoot up the school next week.
Yeah, he knows the whole protocol.
Just hide the gun, and when he comes out, have your hands up. So that's where some of those flaws are like, man, what would be more effective is if you grid mapped and if you had, social interactions, like processes that you put in place with your faculty.
Or preventative measures to maybe help those kids that are lost, man. And I'm not
100%.
I'm not one to sit here and think that we're going to be able to save everybody. It's just not possible, man.
Right.
Everybody wants to kind of nerf this world, and it's impossible. We're dealing with too many fucking people right now, and you're going to be able to save everybody. Good luck, man. Like you said, there's a bunch of dumbasses out there that are having kids, neglecting them, not paying attention, and, not supervising them. I mean, dude, I would hope I would know if my kid had a fucking gun in their room. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but as a parent, you should be going through their room every once in a while. You should be talking with them, watching them, making sure they're all right. Like you can see when they're off.
Yeah,
especially if it's your kid, you should know.
Right. And having just a genuine conversation of like, hey, buddy, I've noticed that, you've been kind of down the last few days.
You've been quiet. You've been in your room. Your door's been closed a lot.
You can tell me about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes for a kid to be like, okay, I can tell you about that.
Yes, somebody cares.
And it's hard because it's such a cyclical thing. And, my wife and I always say often, like when I come into characteristics that are within me that I know aren't effective or fruitful to my family unit, that I've gained through the years, or that I'm, slacking on and being selfish about. It's like, it's not my fault that something happened to me to kind of teach this to me or program it in this, but it is my responsibility to change that and to be better. And it's hard because like the school shooter at Uvalde, or any school shooter that, is kind of under the age of adulthood, I feel bad for most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, like how hard was the ball dropped on that kid?
I know.
And when you have kids, it changes that perspective that you start to look at people and you're like, oh, you were someone's kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that person that you were their kid, they hurt you and they abandoned you and they did all the things that caused you to become this person who's now letting your kid be even farther neglected to the point that they feel their only solution to the pain inside of them is to go kill somebody.
Yeah. Make
like
everybody else hurt.
It's fucking wild, bro.
Yeah.
But while I feel the pity of the fault, it's like those parents and granddads that I called dipshit earlier, I hold to it. Because while I feel the pity of the fault, I also feel the anger of your responsibility. Like, why didn't you show up to be better? And it is something that you have to practice at, like that muscle. But that's a way that
like being a parent,
to be better, to be a better person.
Yeah. You definitely
that's something that you have to practice at, just at the mentality of it, not just then actually practicing at being a better person, but getting to the point to be like, I want to be better.
Yeah, and it takes time, and it also takes a lot of reflecting, looking in the mirror, humbling yourself to where you are reflecting on all the things you're embarrassed of how you're acting. And trying to change, because it sucks. I've dealt with it so much, like where I've gone back and forth of like, okay, I'm implementing change, and then it's like a cycle almost, and I'll repeat, and I'm back at square one. I'm being too short tempered or something, and then it's like I feel bad, and then I do it again, but you have to keep realizing it and changing it and more, and you thinking you're just going to stop is not going. No, you have to find something. Like for me, jiu-jitsu, working out, stuff like that, like riding motorcycles, that helps me alleviate things that are causing me to act this way. And so you have to find these tools. And I'm not saying that you have to work out or you have to do this or that, but you have to find something. Yeah. Something that helps you deal with whatever it is that you keep repeating that are hurting yourself or others. And you need to take those things, and it may not be one, it may be a couple of things, and you need to utilize those. Like, the books that I read that we were discussing earlier off air, the meditations, reflecting back on that, or, religion, or motivational videos, or podcasts. Like these are all the things you have to use in order to implement these changes. And so that way, that cycle, it's further and further apart from each other of, you just going over and over again in the same circle. Now you're breaking away from it, and you're not repeating those same steps, and you're catching it before you act. Right. That's the goal, right? Is catch it in the moment. Because I remember for so long I would not see it and I would just react, And then now that I'm getting older and I've been sticking to a routine for some years now, it's like, oh, I can see when I'm about to act a way I don't want to act. And now, granted, I'm not a saint. I have my moments still, but it's a lot. If you look at it from like my 20-year-old to 25 to 33-year-old self, it's gotten so much better. And the only way you're going to know that is if you ask other people and open up yourself to criticism. Sure. So,
and it's almost like those things that you keep from like jujitsu or your motorcycles. Those are these relief tools or implementations in you that help you, that relieve you from repeating that cycle, so that then you can truly reflect and change the thing. It's not just like, oh, pick up a hobby, you'll be a better person. Yeah. Because the problem is that as soon as you can't do that hobby because, you hyperextended your knee in jiu-jitsu, or it's been raining all, spring.
It's getting costly.
Right. Yeah. As soon as you can't do that, you revert back to that cycle. So it's like, know that those relief implementations pull you to a place where you can start to truly do the work.
So don't rely on them. Use them as a tool to be able to better understand yourself.
Yes.
That's okay. Yeah. What do you do? Do you do other like hobbies or anything like that? Or
I wish I had more like true hobbies, but my hobbies now are like, I do podcasts. I'm really interested in the industry that I'm in. So like I buy locksmith equipment and then I just.
But I don't think that's. But I know it pertains to your work,
right?
But if you love it, that's a hobby.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
You know, and it's cool because you have a hobby. I wish that I could find a hobby that paid me. If somebody paid me to ride that fucking big ass motorcycle in the garage, I'd be happy as hell.
Yeah, but if you find that out, let me know.
Yeah, I think that's neat, bro. I think that's really, and just even you saying how you went into a rabbit hole of the Uvalde shooting. It's like how many people do that? People just look at it and go, "Oh, that's so sad," and then just.
Yeah.
You know, you were like, hold on, I want to fucking break this down and like look at other people's work and see what they think and come up with my own conclusions. I think we need more people like that, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I do that. I like tech, you know what I'm saying? Like the hacky, you know, like small radio frequencies. I do microcontrollers with my kid. I like to solder. I like jiu-jitsu. I've just started kind of get back into that.
Oh, nice.
So I did a lot of martial arts growing up.
That's awesome.
It's just kind of been a break for a while, and now I got a son to kind of, you know, take into it.
Yeah.
Be like, look at this.
Awesome.
You know.
That's cool, man.
So I've always been pretty broad. You know, I like different musics. I like to talk about different things, and so it's never been a serious one true hobby, but I did everything from, you know, playing football in college to playing Magic the Gathering with my friends. So it's like I spanned the whole spectrum, you know what I'm saying?
Bro,
so.
I never got into Magic. I didn't. Some of the guys at work, they talk about it. I was a Pokemon guy.
Yeah, me too.
So, dude, I wish I had all my Pokemon cards. Bro, I had first edition.
Dude, it's still done it.
Holographic Charizards, like all the original shit, bro. I had everything, bro. And it took me a lot of trades to get all that shit, bro. Convincing people like, hey, man, if I trade you 5 of these fireballs, I don't remember what they're, fire energies. I was like, bro, give me that Charizard. Just like convincing when you're a little kid, like other kids that have it.
It's still like, gunning though. Yeah. It's like popular still.
Yeah, I know. Dude, it was so cool.
The test of time.
When the app came out. What was that, like in 2015, something around there?
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I remember my daughter when it first came out. I was like, I'm going to show you something that's going to change your life. Like, and I thought at the time we were going to be battling and shit out because I was like, holy fuck, dude, we're going to be walking around and there's going to be people that you can battle against. But at the time, it was just like capture. You catch Pokemon.
Did you hear about the company that created that? They're called like Nikon or something.
Oh, really?
And what they did is they pretty much like grass-rooted a Google Maps because your phone was out capturing all that onto their servers.
I heard that they were taking like photos of landmarks and stuff. Like they were mapping everything, right?
They mapped everything. And now they have their own mapping system. So like Google Maps is on a higher level. Like there's multiple mapping systems that pull from these companies you've never heard of. But Nikon was like, we want to get in the game. And so they created like this Pokemon Go and they pretty much got it for fucking free, bro.
That's crazy.
Not even free. You were paying them if you wanted like more shit.
Yeah, if you wanted more shit. Yeah, you were paying them.
Dang, dude. That's smart. Right?
Yeah, that is fucking wild.
I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying.
Bro, and everybody was playing. I mean, because the plaza was a destination
out on the corner
spot.
Of the street and stuff. Like,
I don't see it anymore though. Do you?
Every now and then you'll see somebody who you're like, not to be rude, but you're like, well, they don't walk out in a park that much. You know, they doing something, and they all like
they're all like this the entire time walking around. Yeah, when we were in the plaza. Everybody was walking because when it first came out, I remember I took me, my daughter, and my 2 younger brothers. It might have been, I can't remember who all went with me. It might have been all my brothers, but we all went down there. I have a picture of all of us in my truck, and we went down there. Everybody was playing, bro. Yeah. Everybody was like this, and then everybody's running into cars and shit like that. Do you remember those cases?
Oh yeah,
there was people getting ran over and stuff because they were just glued to that fucking screen,
I got a buddy that worked in maybe I can't say too much, I guess. He worked in like high federal aviation, and so they had a facility, and he's like, dude, I would point my rifle and back people off the property because they were fucking Pokemon going, and they were at some like federal aviation site. He's like, yeah, man, when that shit came out, it was so annoying. He's like, I backed so many people down, like, get the fuck off the
bro.
They're like,
People are
aren't you
wild.
supposed to do it for a rat-a-tat?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I know. Fucking wild, dude.
Yeah.
That shit was wild. I remember there used to be a guy on a bicycle in like China or Japan, and he had like 30 phones.
And he was playing it?
And he was playing, and he had like this like stand, and it had all his phones. And it was like 30 of them, and
That's
they all had
crazy.
Pokemon Go, and he was like trying to capture all of them. Like trying to catch them all.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to do.
Just
He was trying to catch them all.
Just Ash catch him out there on his bicycle.
Man. I heard now you can like battle and stuff like that too. Which
In
that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. That's cool.
But I don't know. I feel like the phase is already gone. And it's
I don't know if anybody still does it.
I kind of wanted to get a Nintendo Switch to play the game, but I don't know. It was a good run.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Hey, I also wanted to ask you. So when it comes down to the physical side of security, not only do you do the locksmith side, but you also do like the camera system, CCTV type stuff, right?
That's predominantly what I do now, in the role of like engineering. So we get prints from like the architect or the GC, and then we design the security system, and then I pretty much build it part by part. Yeah.
So what are you looking for? Certain areas, blind spots,
definitely.
areas to be targeted, back doors, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's like security theory that's like just kind of basic principle of how you approach a site and where you want vision, and it's very what should I say, like modular. So like if the client is concerned about this thing, then you can kind of like put their resources into that, because everybody's like, I can't pay that much. Right. That's what they all say.
Yeah, everybody says
you know
that.
what I'm saying? So, but you kind of get an inventory of their assets, like what is important to their function of their business. Yeah. And then you can place your security system overlapping each other. It's called like defense in depth. So it's like, if you start at the perimeter of the site, how many controls or barriers do you have to go through before you're at an asset, right? So you might use it at a single door. You might have a door that's reinforced. That's a barrier. It might have like a intrusion contact on it, so the alarm system knows if the door opens. That's a barrier. It might have access control with a badge. That's a barrier, and a camera watching it. And then like this choke point, it's like that's probably not where you're gonna. The threat is going to get in. You know? Yeah.
And that stuff is not, I've seen some of that stuff when I was a project manager, like those big commercial doors with the whole scan card stuff on them. Like that's a lot of hardware, man. Yeah.
It is. It's a lot of hardware. And
like I can't imagine that, like that Meta project or that one project out in DeSoto. That mega project out there. Yeah. That's wild. Man. That's a lot of doors too.
It is.
A lot of equipment. Why I've always wondered this, just being in construction, why is low voltage and the regular just electricians, why are they always separate? Because I dealt with that a lot. When I'd get an electrician, he'd be like, but we don't do low voltage. I'm like, okay, so I got to go find a low voltage. Okay. Okay. And at the time I'm like, what the fuck? You can't put the fucking fire alarms in, I would say, but I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah. So when it comes to fire specifically, there are a lot of codes around that. And there's a lot of certifications that you have to meet code. So like if you get a site and you're putting fire alarm on it, you have to have somebody on set who's what they call NICET certified up to a certain level, like 3 or 4 within your company, or you can't create this and sell it. Pretty much. Okay. And so fire has some restrictions around it. What happened is that technology grew. So like the electrician trade has been going since, the late 1800s, right? That you had electricians putting shit in. And then we didn't really get that ramp of what we would consider like connectivity or low voltage until, I don't know, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, when it really started to kind of come into play. And then the home computer came, and it was just like, goodness gracious, it was off to the races. Right. So with that, you have a lot of electricians that the electrical trade has a really good infrastructure for training. They have unions. You have to apprentice. You have state and federal certifications or, apprenticeships or licenses that you have to get. None of that's in low volt. It's like cowboy, man. It's out there in the West.
Maybe I should have went there, because I applied at IBW back in 2017. Yeah. I passed all their tests, everything, their written tests, had an interview with like 3 individuals. their big concern was I came from a manufacturing background, so I wouldn't be used to layoffs, which blows my mind. Why you would even tell me, like,
yeah.
Are you trying to get me to work here? Like, you're telling me that there's like, well, that's just how construction is, son. I'm like, all right. I was like, well, layoffs aren't going to be an issue because you're not going to want to lay me off, so don't worry about that. I'm sure you hear that all the time, but trust me, give me 3 months, I'll show you. And they put me on a 2-year waiting list. And I'm like, I don't know. And it kind of pissed me off because I'm making way more money than what the apprentices at the time were making, like $17 an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to put me on a 2-year waiting list for $17 an hour? I make like $25 an hour. But at the time, it was the first time in my life where I was like, like I told you, I'm a hands-on guy, you know. I mess with a lot of electrical stuff in my home. I've owned a home since like 2013. So like I do a lot of the stuff myself, and the electrical side of things is always, I've been curious because I'm like, how the fuck does that shit run through that cable to that switch, and then it just turns on, you know? So it's like, and also I'm scared of it, you know, because you know, you touch a fucking fat ass wire on that fuse on that breaker box, like you fucking die, you know? God, yeah, I know. And I've been shocked a couple of times messing with shit. You know, you get lazy, you don't want to go downstairs and turn a breaker on, so you're like, I'll just swap this ceiling fan out real quick, and then fucking touch something. Oh shit! And you just get a nice buzz. Right, riding the lightning, as they say, dude. Oh man, I got shocked one time, dude. My whole body went like a little. And this was off of a little outlet, which I was surprised, but yeah. So like I was like, man, this is something I want to do. Like, and I still to this day wish I would have gotten in, but you know, I tried calling and getting in, but I mean, 2-year waiting list. It's a very sought after job. It's hard to get into. And then, and it's like now it's been so long, it's like hard for me to make a pay cut like that. I mean, I make more money than that now. It's like, I couldn't.
See, that's the hard thing is you get into a career and you progress enough that at some point, I've thought about that too. I'm like, I would like to try out this career, but I can't go try it out at this income and still take care of my family.
I know.
And so that it is difficult. The nice thing about low voltage is that it's so broad. So you're dealing with like what they call datacom or telecom. That's like putting the wires in to plug your computer in to get it on the internet.
Right.
You're dealing with like AV, which is like lighting and all sorts of stuff. And now the AV,
is that like emergency lighting, or what is that? Is that just regular lighting?
No, so like AV is audio visual. So you'll go into like a church or an event center or something like that, or a high school auditorium, and all those lights, all the soundboards, the speakers, the whole nine, and then it's all integrated. So like there's building control systems where if you come into a higher end building late at night and you badge in, the access control is integrated with it. So it knows your badge. Yeah. Because this is, Baer, and it knows Baer's office is on the 3rd floor. So it will light only the path I need to get to my office.
Oh, damn. That's dope.
So then the
save on money. Too,
yeah. The business company, isn't paying for, or it'll turn the AC off from, midnight to 3 a.m. And then it'll kick it back on so that when people start showing up at 6, it's ready to go.
That's dope.
So there's like building controls like that. There's physical security. And then, so there's a lot of things in low voltage that you can kind of learn.
I got a couple questions for you that I had written down I wanted to go over. I need to do better at using my notes anyways.
Nah, you're
sometimes
good,
I go off the whiff and I'm just
like just shooting shit, man.
You do, me too. Nice. But there's some things that I was like, man, I got to remember these. So what do you think some of the biggest security threats homeowners and businesses are facing today?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. I think that...
Or maybe security measures that you think are important for them today.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the threats for homeowners and small to medium businesses is that there's still, what should I say? Like there's still like an easy take. Like people overall can still gather an idea that if I get into that house, there's probably something valuable for me. Right. I've got resources like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or this or that anything that I lift, I can get off me quickly and I can make a few bucks at that. And so to prevent that thinking from being the threat that takes your small business or your home, the number one thing that I push is lighting. is
I remember one of the episodes I listened to of yours. Yeah, you mentioned that.
And I talked to Michael about this on KCBC that it's like lighting is definitely the first place to start, because sometimes you're like, well, I can't shovel out, like, let's say for my small business, I can't shovel out $5 or $6 grand to get access control.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, okay, but I can spend $30 at Home Depot and put a light out front.
Spotlight.
Yeah. That's maybe even motion activated.
Yeah. And they're not that expensive now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they can be LED, and sometimes they can be like battery operated.
Mm-hmm. And instead of that $6 grand, pay a guy like yourself, whatever, let's just say $150 to install it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That it could be a huge deterrent.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Dudes don't like when, you know, they're creeping into a house and a bright ass light turns on.
Yeah.
That freaks somebody out.
Right. And so that's the first thing that I would turn to. And then I think also the small threat that is the widest or broadest availability that's going to hit or target your business or home is looking for the ease of getting in and getting out.
Right.
So it's like water, man. It's just looking to take the easiest path to get the greatest reward.
Right.
So if your house is hard, if your business is hard to get into, to be around and not be noticed, like those sorts of things, then they'll go to the next one, because there's always a next one.
Yeah.
And there's some guy out there who doesn't even turn his porch light on at night. You know what I'm saying? And his house is pitch black. And he works at night. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I put on that post when I shared the episode. What was that? Some weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, when I shared that. I was like, man, I wish my neighbors would listen to this podcast, because like none of them keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Now some of them do have motion detection.
Yeah.
So that's good. Like the neighbor in front of me, I think she has motion detection lights, and I've got a bunch of motion detection lights. Like I have rings all over my house. And I leave my porch light on. I'm probably paying however much a month extra, but I have a peace of mind, man.
Yeah.
And also too, a big thing for me, dogs. They say dogs deter like 90-something% of people trying to break into a home just by the bark alone, because they don't know, especially if you have a decent sized dog and you hear a bark, they're not going to want to go and deal with the fucking dog while they're trying to get shit out of your house.
I had a job that when I was running as a locksmith, and I had put a deadbolt on her front door, and she was like, hey, what else can I do to protect my home? Because, you know, I just want to make sure that my home's really protected. Should I put a deadbolt on the garage door? And I could have said yes and made $250 and put one in, you know, drilled one into the door. But she had these 2 huge German Shepherds at the back patio door, just like waiting to eat me, man. You know what I'm saying? I was like, look, honestly, you're good. Like that's your security system right there. I don't think you have to worry. Like, you've locked your front door. Don't worry about your garage. If they hear anybody, they're gone.
No, my German Shepherd was big, man. He passed away. He passed away last year, and he was a big dog, man. I had him for 11 years, man. Got him when he was like 7 weeks old.
Yeah.
But every time I'd walk around with him, I would forget how fucking big. I've had him since he was a baby.
Right.
So I never really had him on a leash ever, because, you know, he never really, like when he was younger, you know, you got to train him to chill out and listen and
They're
stay.
kind of freaks.
Yeah. But like when he got older, and like, you know, sometimes he'd try to stray off if you see a dog, but if I raised my voice, and he'd come back, you know, but I would just let him walk around with me. He's just always out in the yard with me and mow the grass. He'd always be out with me all the time. But I forget, sometimes people would walk by and they'd be a little scared, and I'm like, that's just Django. His name was Django. And one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And we had a dog named Bella. Her name was supposed to be Broomhilda, because it was supposed to be, so I had a cat, my favorite cat in the world, man. His name was Dr. King, but everyone thought it was for Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
It was actually Dr. King Schultz from Django. That was the white guy.
Yeah.
And then Django was Jamie Foxx. And then Broomhilda was supposed to be Jamie Foxx's wife in the movie.
Right.
So we had a whole cast going on. Because I think at the time, that's probably when that movie came out. And I love Quentin Tarantino movies, man.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they're fucking great. And but yeah, he'd be outside and they'd be walking by like, what the fuck? Holy shit. You know, it's a big ass dog. He's like, is he nice? I'm like, yeah, he's nice. But then I forget. I'm like, yeah, Gary, he's a 100-pound German Shepherd.
Right.
You know, looks
like
scary
if you don't
shit.
have dogs, you're like, that thing's going to eat me.
Yeah, that thing's going to eat me. But dude, I took for granted, you know, like really how much how much peace he gave me, you know, and just, you know, I knew if anything was coming near that, he would hear it, you know, or my other dog would hear it and start barking.
We had a dog when my kids were young, and I had to travel a lot for the work that I was in. And when I got a newer job, he passed away 3 or 4 years ago. And when I got a newer job, when we came back to Kansas City, she was like, you can't travel, you know, not unless we can get a dog. Yeah. Because if I'm here with the kids, like, I need to know that, like, at least someone's looking out for me while I'm trying to.
Oh yeah, I had to work nights some years. Yeah, and you know that helps knowing that dog's there. You know.
And it helped me.
Deterrent. Yeah.
Like while I was away, I'm like, well, at least you know. Yeah. There's somebody there who's gonna.
Or sometimes too, I even look at it like, you know, to create that that want to go into my property. It's like, you got to kind of look aggressive too, man. Like, look, like you said, like, I don't want to mess. It's a hard house to break into. Yeah. But even as simple as like sometimes I leave my truck at home and I'll take the Kia instead. Right. Because I know, because they're like, oh, that dude must be some like big redneck guy or something, you know, and I'm not, but like, you know, they don't know that, you know, they just see a big truck with mud tires and bow hunter written on the back, and they're like, yeah, that's not the house I really want to go into.
Yeah, not 100%.
You know, or some guy who has a Glock on the back of his truck or some shit. You know, like that. Those are deterrents. You know, as well as, like you said, porch lights. I even every house I usually go to always change the hardware out. Always. Oh yeah. I don't know how people just like, oh yeah, thanks for the keys, and then leave the same.
That's wild, man. Yeah. Especially it being in locksmithing. Yeah. It was like I would be changing the locks I was changing the locks to a person's house, and they were kind of, oftentimes you'd get them, they'd sit there and they'd talk to you the whole time you're doing it. Yeah. But they were telling me like, yeah, we're changing them out because like a couple weeks ago, this like 20-something-year-old kid came up and he was like, hey, I had this key when I was like young and I used to live down the block because my buddy lived here. And so I just thought, well, I guess I'll return it. And it fucking worked a lot, you know? And I'm like, oh, shit. Man.
That's like, fucking wild.
Yeah, yeah. So you got to change. Yeah. If you get a new home, rekey it as quickly as possible. Yeah. Because you don't know who has that key.
Oh, yeah. For instance, the story here, there was a guy that was like a schizophrenic who lived here. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know at the time because whoever sold me this house, they bought it, flipped it, and then you know, did the shitty flipped where they used the raggediest paint, like that matte or that flat paint, and just fucking threw it on the wall, threw it everywhere, you know. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't look too bad. I walk in here, decent for the price, but you know, and I didn't know anything the history of who was living here, right? But one day I go out on the back porch and I'm looking around and I'm like, why are the cameras all pointed at my house? You know, like the cameras from the neighbors' houses. And I was like, why is there so many fucking cameras? I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And so I go out in the front and then there's like cameras pointed at my house from the front. And then, so I end up talking to the neighbor that's in front of me, a very sweet lady. And she kind of filled me in. And also the neighbor next to me filled me in. And they're like, yeah, I'm sorry. There just used to be a guy there. He was like abusing his mom or grandma. And he would, and then there was like weird lights wired up throughout the house and stuff. And they were pointed in at other house. Like there's one up here on the side that I had to disconnect when I first moved in. It was just like, it's supposed to be a spotlight. But right. I don't know why you need a spotlight on that side of the house. There's no door, but it was just pointed at the window. So like he would do that. He'd turn them on and it would just go through people's windows, and he would throw rocks at people's windows in their houses. Gosh. Yeah, I know. So I was like, holy shit. And luckily, you know, like I said, every house I've been at, I immediately changed the locks out. Right. So, but I still worried, you know, what if he wants to come back home? Right. I don't know what happened to him. They said he had gotten arrested or something like that. And they said he was crazy. They said he'd be out in the back with his lawnmower and just the riding lawnmower and just go in circles. And then they said one time he flipped over and he like picked it up. I was like, holy shit, dude, who is this guy, dude? But and I just always, you know, these are just good things. Like even When I change the locks out, I always, that faceplate, I always put in like 3-inch screws so they go into the stud. That way they're not, those little baby screws that you get. And
there's this company called Tough Strike, TUFF Strike, that you can buy from offline.
Oh,
and
really?
they've got like where the deadbolt on the frame.
Keep going, I'm grabbing
yeah. So the deadbolt on it throws the bolt into the frame, and I'm good, man. I'm doing good. And that little plate that is over the hole where the deadbolt goes is called the strike plate. They make one with like these 2 to 4 inch long posts that you drill into the wood framing of your house, so that when you put it in there, if you're like kicking on the door, you can't break the frame to get through, because most of the time that you kick a door in, even if the deadbolt's thrown, the thing that gives isn't the deadbolt, it's the frame.
Yeah, it's the frame.
Right,
You're gonna bust that
Yeah.
frame out. Yeah.
So if you can buy, like, if you're looking to harden your home, if you can buy something like Tough Strike or a heavier gauged strike with longer screws into the framing of your house, then that's a great way.
Yeah, I didn't think about they probably are. I just usually go and buy like a box of screws from Home Depot that are 3 inches long. Yeah. So if you're on a budget,
there you go.
That's better than fucking nothing.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Better than what you had.
And the other thing is kind of that crime prevention through environmental design is keeping your property clean. If your property looks clean and then the next guy's is grown over and whatever, because people think, oh, if I get a really tall fence, it's going to protect, it's protecting your privacy. But one thing it might be doing is the threat or the bad guy could think, once I get in there, I can't be seen. So all I got to do is get over the fence and then no one knows I'm there.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So using something called natural surveillance. So using fences that are either slatted or lower will provide vision through. So your neighbor might be like, who the hell's that?
Damn.
Like, hey, there's...
And I'm a fan of privacy fences, but now...
Here's the thing. It's a give or take, because I'm a fan of privacy too.
Yeah.
I don't want you knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like I was a little reluctant to even say my name. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, really? I could blank it out.
No, yeah.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay. But yeah, so like it was being able to like provide that visual cue, and you get the nosy neighbor, who's always looking, and then they see something and they can help you out.
Yeah.
So, and then building that relationship with neighbors. That's the thing, man.
Yeah, I got to get better at that.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of them. I'm not like the neighbor that's like talks to them every fucking time I say. I always wave, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I do believe in that. If you want community, you got to be able to build it on the block that you live on first. That's the most important for sure. And then also too, little things like I notice when people buy shit, they just throw the whole entire box out on the side of their house, or like cut that shit up so they don't know you just bought that 55-inch TV. You know, and then they know, damn, they just bought. I'm about to go get that thing out of their house.
Also using
or Christmas time's even worse.
Using a pseudonym when you're buying off Amazon. So we have a pseudonym that isn't our last name isn't our first name.
Okay.
So like for instance, at coffee shops, you might walk in and they're like, can I get a name for the order? And this might seem like crazy to some people, but I'm like, yeah, it's Charles, and then they call for Charles and I get my thing, but they don't need to know my name. And that comes from a little bit of like I kind of am prone to be like, oh man, privacy needs to be something that is something that's like focused in your life, something that you're using and utilizing, because if we don't utilize it as citizens and individuals, then our culture will allow us to lose it.
Well, yeah, that's a good kind of topic to discuss right now then too. It's like, how does like the security side of it conflict with the privacy side of it? Because like we talked about earlier, we've got cameras everywhere. And
that is a big topic.
I get annoyed hearing my fucking Ring doorbell all the goddamn time. That thing drives me nuts, dude. But I need it.
Right.
I don't feel it's weird because I didn't have one in the past. It's like now I couldn't imagine not having one, or a camera system in general to notify me when there's motion or something.
Yeah, it's a hot topic, especially not just in the industry but in our world, because like what London has like there's all coverage in London. There's like some 35,000 cameras or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you can't go anywhere without being seen.
Wasn't that a movie? Remember that Eagle Eye or something like that?
Yeah.
With Shia LaBeouf, I think?
Oh, yeah. Shit, I haven't thought about that in a minute.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly
And I think there
everything
was a little bit of it like with Enemy of the State, too.
That's a Will Smith movie?
Yeah, where he was like running and they were like seeing him.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, but they were tracking them.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's how they kind of do things now, right? I mean, they like any crime that goes on, they'll check all the different security cameras to kind of pinpoint on the map exactly where he went.
Yeah.
And that's how they caught that Luigi guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I think
right.
that's how they did it. And they like found him all the way back to McDonald's and tracked it again. And...
I think a McDonald's employee called, though.
Oh, maybe.
And was like, he was in. And I saw some meme that was
that's a little fishy.
McDonald's be snitching.
Yeah. You ain't lying.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's a little, I don't know. How many people are just calling on people? You know, I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I
don't
know. Maybe if you're bored.
Yeah.
Well, if it was a hot topic, you'd be like, hey, I think that's the guy.
Or he's a CIA plant.
Bitch working for you. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I don't know. That's my concern is the balance, you know, is the balance of security and privacy. And I don't know if that is going to be balanced. It's like we're kind of going into an era of like it's pretty much integrated and I don't know if I mean fuck, I mean even myself, I carry my phone everywhere. I'm posting photos on Instagram, videos, you know, I try to keep a lot of stuff with my kids scrubbed off my stuff and the wife, and it's just, but I still post stories from time to time, you know, and put them up because, you know, I just, you know, want to show friends, family, you know, what my kids are doing. But is that normal? You know, is that supposed to be a thing? We didn't do that in the past. I don't, you know, and why am I doing it because of me or am I doing it for them? Like, it's just weird, you know, and then like even my laptop, you know, I've got a cover on my webcam, which I usually keep. I used to be the guy with the stickers on them all the time until they started built the integrated blocker thing. But yeah, so I mean, anywhere you go, you could possibly be being watched. Man, I got to find this episode. I'm going to send it to you. Sean Ryan had a guy on who was a some sort of hacker or something like that. Kind of
a Playboy kid.
No, skinny white dude.
Oh yeah,
nerdy white guy. Yep. And he does like, dude, some of the shit he has to watch because I think he does like he goes after like child trafficking. Stuff. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I just seen another video.
There was one guy that goes after child trafficking that was gruff. He was a cowboy. He'd been beat the shit out of by every parent figure he'd ever had. Really? He was cool.
Really?
Because he was like on his revenge story.
Yeah, because that's my thing. Dude, when it comes to kids, man, I can't, like, you know, you're a father. Yeah. Like, it hits me fucking. Oh, yeah. To the core. Like, dude, that guy I talked about, the guy I'm telling you about, he was on a TikTok video and he was on a different podcast, but I remember him from Sean Ryan because he was showing all these gadgets he can use and anybody can get them. Like you can buy this shit and you can plug it to somebody's phone and it literally hack into their shit and like all sorts of stuff. You'd be able to break down better, but he literally said, they asked him like, what's the worst shit you've seen? Because I think he works for the government or something. He does something or some security contracted something. He's like, well, I can't tell you about some of the shit that I've seen. I'm guessing that's probably child pornography stuff that he had. He probably has to review. You know, I mean, somebody has to review these things.
Which is nuts.
Bro, I thought the same thing. How do you go home? How do you go home? How are you normal? How do you look at life the fucking same? Like, you're seeing this shit all the time. Yeah. I want to know the fucking career span on that job because how long do those people
once you're
last?
in it, are you just in it?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, well, this is my...
Like, how do you shut that off? Yeah. Or like paramedics or doctors, you know, like how do they shut that off? And this is, I mean, you can say, okay, well, injuries are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. But this is just some devil shit, bro. Like some demonic type shit.
Like, you know? The bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. And he was explaining, he was like, well, he's like, I'll tell you one. He was like, I came across a video and he called it the clear web, not the dark web. So I'm guessing the clear web is just the normal internet. I don't know. Okay. And he goes, it was a group of people who were paying to watch a baby's skull be crushed in alive. And I was like, what? Like what are these? And I know this shit exists. We on Purple Pill we did a episode on Peter Scully. He was a fucking horrible person. Right. I think he was in the Philippines or in Thailand. Would brutally kill and molest children, and he was telling their parents that he was taking them to go for school. You know, they see this white guy, you're in a third world fucking country, poverty type shit. Yeah. And they were like, well, I can't feed my kid anymore, so I don't really have a choice. There's a possibility they could go and be educated and learn and get out of this. Which I don't know. Yeah, lied to. I don't know how. I mean, those people, I feel so bad for those people, man. And you know, yeah, and he would kill and molest kids, and so like I've seen this dark web stuff. I've heard of like what was it called, Betty's Destruction, or all these weird fucking videos that were floating around on Reddit and stuff like that. And I've never seen any of them, and I don't want to, because that's the last shit you want on your fucking computer. Right. I always get worried about emails, like fish emails, possibly fucking trying to plant that shit on my computer.
I can barely think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's fucked up. But it needs to be something that needs to be more normalized and discussed, you know, because it's happening a lot more than what people think.
Like CSAM and stuff.
Yeah. CSAM, what is that?
So it's like, that's what they call it. It's like child sexual adolescent something.
Okay.
You know, like
molestation or some shit. Yeah.
But I think they refer to it as CSAM.
CSAM. Okay. Yeah. And it's just, it's something that I wish is discussed more, because I know a lot of people who have been affected by it. And it's just, it's not, what the fuck, man? What are we doing? You know, these fucking kids, you know?
Yeah. And you know, the thing is like, the internet's just not for children. And I think that we have this view, and it was kind of like slow fed to us. So we kind of got bamboozled, but we started out where, you know, that kid meme where it's like the internet, you know what I'm saying? And so it was like, we introduced it, and everybody's experiencing the internet at the same time as the internet is growing and becoming a thing, that we got into a Pandora's box that you can't turn away from, like we talked about earlier. And what happened, but where we're at now is it's so wrapped into everything we do, from shopping to social media to interaction to finding out facts and everything like that. And it's baked into the phone that we carry with us everywhere, that I think we need to reevaluate and say, okay, this has now become a thing that needs to be sheltered from our children. And then you can indulge in it when you're an adult and make your own decisions. And I don't think that our culture sees it as that. So you get the, 6-year-old on their iPad on YouTube, unfettered, like not even YouTube Kids, which doesn't help, but it's not even, it doesn't even have
shit getting through that too.
Yeah. It doesn't even have that filter on it. They're just on YouTube, and they want to watch Minecraft, but then they click this link, they click that link, and all of a sudden they're watching something that is just stripping them of their innocence. Yeah. And now they think that this is something that is normal in their environment, and we lose childhood. Right. And so now you've got 9-year-olds that aren't kids anymore.
Or they're telling them to do stuff. Like I remember when my daughter was younger, there was a video that was floating around on YouTube Kids still. And you think like, oh, it's all kid shows, but no, it wasn't. There was some video, and it may have been nothing. I don't know. I just made sure I was looking through her history, make sure she's not seeing that, because you don't. I fight with keeping it awake. Do I wish I probably would have, when she turned 10, not gave her a phone? Yeah, but man, it's kind of a hard. It's a hard decision, man. I don't knock parents who don't give it to them, and I don't knock parents who do. I think whatever you do, just monitor as best you can. Kids are going to get into some shit, man. We were kids. We got into shit, Sure. The only problem is now is that their shit's not getting erased, like these stories I'm hearing of middle school kids, nudes going around schools, and like that shit's all saved, guys. Like you guys are sending that to one another. And like, I mean, the shit my brother has told me, like when he was in high school, like the revenge stuff they would do on exes and sending to everybody, like it's horrible, man. It is. And I don't know if you can necessarily stop it by making them wait, because it's almost like that whole wait till you're 21 to drink, when almost the best method is to introduce it to them a little early in a controlled environment, so they know like this isn't something that's sought after. Like this isn't like, it's not what you think it is. Like if you wait till you're 21 and woo, you're fucking partying it up, you know, and which no one really does. Everyone's drinking in like high school anyways, but like slowly introduce them. So maybe we can do that to the phones, like slowly introduce them to things and just monitor things, block certain apps, and
for sure,
you know, try it the best you can.
There are things that monitor and meter that in like Bark Phone. If you've heard of Bark US or Bark Phone, Bark Phone is a company that has created a phone that looks like a smartphone. It has apps, but it is 100% monitored from the adult or the parent or guardian. And so you can see exactly what the kid is doing, and it comes with controls already on it to make sure that they're not getting into anything they shouldn't. I don't think you're going to stop it either, and that's not at all.
No, but you can filter out a lot of it. You can filter out a lot. Yeah. Like even on an iPhone, a basic iPhone, like I've got time restraints. I've got, and I'm not saying I have only 30-minute time restraints. Like it's a good window for her. Like she doesn't feel like she's missing anything. But, you know, I also have certain things, you know, that she doesn't have on, like she's not supposed to have on there. Like you can make restrictions for your child on their iPhone and then put in a password that you only know, and then they're good to go, you know. And you got to monitor their shit. You know, there's times where I have to take my kid's phone and I got to look through it. I'm sorry, but I got to, you know. And,
it's for protection.
Yeah. You know, it's not invading privacy. They're your child. They're living in your house. You know, like you if you want to prevent stuff, those are preventative measures.
Yeah. And you also have to be coupling that with the conversation and the relationship.
Yeah. Not just saying, hey, give me this. I'm your dad.
Right.
Explain to them, hey, I understand. And we're very open, you know, like I understand you're going to say some stuff on there. I'm not looking for that shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you're a kid. I see a cuss word, whatever. I'm looking to make sure you're not going to fuck up your life.
Yeah. Or you're talking to someone.
Or you're talking to some person and you think there's somebody, and I look at it and I'm like, that is not who you think it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Stuff like that. So like, there's a give and take, you know, there's a balance to it, and communication over everything, man. You got to communicate with your kids. And if you can, they're not always going to be the happiest about it, but if you can explain it to them and try to show them, and it's going to take more than once, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been explaining shit to my daughter since she was a very young child, and you have to, so they understand, and then when they get older, they realize, oh, that's why they did it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know, we're not always going to be in the best light of our kids. You know, we're going to have to be sometimes the bad parent, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. That's the balance of parenting, man. You know, I know everybody wants to be the fun parent and their kid loves them and stuff like that, and it makes you feel great, but don't do it for you. You should be doing it because it's right for them. You know, and some things that are right for them don't necessarily make you feel the best, but it has to be done, you know?
Yeah. You got to remember that when you had that child, you know, it was, you were taking on the responsibility of a role very first for that child. And so you can't just be their friend, but at the same time, you can see them as a human and use that communication to show them that they are seen as a human in your eyes, and they're not just this thing that this is what we do, this is how we do it. You know what I'm saying? And anything that you feel or think is not factored into the equation. Yeah. Like that's just, we saw how that works out, didn't we? Like, I know. You know, like that, we saw how that worked out. But,
I get it. Yeah, I know, man. To bounce back to that, the homeowner and the business side of things when it comes to security, I had a couple more questions I wanted to get to on that as well. So some of the most common mistakes, like what are they when people are looking for like a security system for their,
good
and
question.
I know do you want to keep it business and home? I'm sure it's a lot different, you know, the commercial side to residential side.
Yeah. So it is blended a little bit from residential to like small to medium business.
Okay.
When you get into like corporate or commercial business, you know,
like
I don't know.
Cerner building type shit.
Yeah. Or even like companies that are like 50 to 100 people. Like you kind of get into that bigger sphere. You're looking for maybe different things
Right.
at that point.
Right.
But if you're keeping it under that, and
just for the general public who's
Right.
probably watching. Yeah.
right, and you're factoring in your home or your business, I think that a lot of times people are looking for information online. And so they go to online, they type in security system, and you just have to remember that the company that has the buck to pay for the SEO is going to be who shows up in front of you on your phone.
Mhm.
So you might have to do a little more intentional digging to look for a security systems installer in your city or locally around where you live, and then call them and maybe look for a little advice or information.
What are some red flags when it comes to those companies? Like something that you should look out for, like they're not going to have your probably, best interest in mind. Like, is there anything that comes off mind for you or
Yeah, I mean,
come to mind?
I'm a big proponent of using like locally grown, small to medium business entrepreneur people who are starting their company
Uh-huh.
because they are trying to factor in excellent work because they need the renown
Uh-huh.
for you to spread their word because that's probably how they're getting most of their business.
Right.
And they're not in it to just, scam you. And so if you're getting into a security system and it's like super, I don't know, super easy. It's like, oh, it's $39.99 a month and you sign up for 18 months and,
Right.
we send it to you and you put it in. That seems convenient, except for when something goes wrong. Now you're dealing with, a person on the phone who's not even in the country or
Right.
something.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you get on Google Maps and you get on Google search engine and you type your city or your local area and security installer, or you could call a locksmith, they might contract somebody. Like locksmiths oftentimes, if they just do keys and they don't do electronic security, they might be like, well, Atronics or Kenton Brothers Security in Kansas City, like these people can do that for you,
Right.
So that, do a little bit of research, push a little bit into it because you're dealing with your security system. I mean, it's not like you're paying for Netflix. Like what streaming service is streaming the show that I want to watch? I mean, you're putting something on your home that if complications arise, not just from a threat, but from the internal system and you don't know how to fix it, you want to be able to call somebody who's going to come to your home that now that can be like, oh, I'm sorry, it was wired wrong, or we can fix this or something like that. And a lot of times with security, it's easy on this side. Okay, so I talk a lot about being in my industry of left of bang. So if you're looking at a timeline and an event happens, whether that is your car gets stolen, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's like someone breaks into your home, that's the event, the point on the timeline called bang. And so we're trying to stay left of that. We're trying to put in securities and controls that event doesn't come. And then you've got people like police or emergency responders that are right of bang. So the bang happens and now they have to respond, to help it. So you're trying to stay left of bang and you want to make sure that you're putting in the effort and the finances to do that. It's easy on this side to be like, oh man, like $1,200 to put alarm on my house from like a security installer, or $39.99 and they mail it to me and I do it. But you'll spend that $1,200 the minute that your car's gone and your daughter's afraid. And you know what I'm saying? You're like, put it in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the difference between like the smart home security stuff compared to like the traditional wired stuff that you guys do. Yeah. I'm sure there's a big difference in that.
So from wired to wireless, there's not a huge difference anymore. Okay. So there's like a wireless alarm system that I typically put in for friends and family now, but that I was putting in when I was running my business called Ajax. It's wireless. You put a hub out. It's just like what you get from Ring or Simply Safe or something like that, except for it's all contained and it is usually monitored by a security installer that you can have a relationship with. And it's not just like this, fly by night type of thing that you can just throw up. So,
hell yeah, man. Was there anything else that you wanted to go over today? Like anything? We covered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like. We did. Yeah. No.
One last question though. I do want to go over. We were discussing at the beginning the AI and the security. Yeah. They're kind of meshing together. So like more of like how does that impact security from the AI side?
Yeah, the AI is impacting security in a bunch of different ways. And a lot of it sometimes is fluff. So like video security systems will be like, we use AI analytics, but what they're using is just an analytic.
Well, that's the thing, is it reliable? I think that's the question that's been brought up. Like, is that type of, I mean, from what I've looked up, it's called like smart security systems. The question is, is it reliable with how new it all is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the way that AI is being used in physical security, I would say that reliability isn't really an issue right now.
Okay. Cool.
Using AI, it's usually well tested before it gets to market, especially in something like security. It's not just, Silicon Valley startup and they throw it out there, because if it goes wrong, they have liability on them when it comes to a security system.
Right.
So that stuff's usually vetted. It's being used in a lot of different ways, but I'm a fan of it. Like, I know that it's like kind of Terminator-esque, and it can come with the notion to maybe what I would call like a tech commoner, someone who's not really like well into technology, as something that looks like a magic trick. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like those old doctors that used to wear that bird nose. They'll be doing something with science and they'll be like, it's magic. So it's not as scary as it seems right off the bat when you actually look into it and start to understand what it's doing.
Yeah, become educated in that field.
It can't do all that much yet. Now look, there's this thing called Moore's Law, and it was a guy named Alan Moore. And he said that the circuit board is getting like smaller at a degree as we go into the future. And Moore's Law is infinitely going up, right? So the circuits are infinitely getting smaller as not as much time is passing.
What do you mean Moore's?
His technical theory was like on a computer board, when you pull the motherboard out and you're looking at the circuits, like as we go into the years, those circuits are getting smaller, right? Because now you can put a computer into like something the size of your palm.
Yeah, your phone,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but his theory says that as you go into time, it gets smaller at a higher degree than the line of your time. So like, let's say for 10 years from now, we'll be so much farther in circuitry than we were from 1990 to 2000.
That's correct. What do you think is causing that to advance so quickly?
Like, we've kind of opened that Pandora's box. So we've learned how the physical hardware deals with the software.
Bob Lazar out there reverse engineering shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we found fiber optics. We just discovered it. We're smart, right? No, it crashed here in 1950. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, so all that to say, it's just moving so fast that there will be a point where it's, I don't know if it will be cognizant, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it'll have like conscious, or if it will just be able to mimic something so undistinguishable to us that it looks like consciousness.
Well, they said on Rogan that they had to shut off because it started thinking on its own or some shit. But
like
I didn't
trying
know
to get out.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was, you never know nowadays. There's so much shit that gets an article written on it. You don't know if this is for click, if it's legit. I mean,
or then you look at like, if you are an AI engineer, you're like, okay, that kind of happened, but that's not really like what happened,
exactly. You find a guy in that field and he goes, all right, you guys are over-exaggerating what happened. Let's chill out. And then if it goes out on Rogan, everyone's just like, it happened. Yeah. And even I've been guilty of that at times too, sure. And as you get older and you understand, it's like, well, you can't take everything that a person says. Yeah, he's right about a lot of shit. And he's done a very good job of that, but you can't believe everything. He's going to get duped at some points. He's had to say he's sorry many of times because he fucked up.
Right.
Which I think is good too. That's a good thing.
I mean, if you can own it, then we're all going in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. So what's the future look like, man, in security? Anything new coming down the pipeline or anything?
Yeah,
pretty much.
It kind of depends on exactly where you're looking, but like we're getting into wireless. We're getting into like AI helping. So like,
that's cool you said that though, because wireless used to be like, I don't.
I know it was sketchy. It was like it works sometimes.
Sometimes I can look at it and sometimes I can't. Yeah.
But now they can encrypt it. They can push it like up to 1.5 miles, like in line of sight. So you can have like a alarm system,
Mm-hmm.
and you can put like an alarm contact on your gate to know if the gate's opened or closed.
That's cool.
And then
Or
it can be
windows
wireless
yeah.
on a ranch that's line of sight 1.5 miles away, and it'll work.
Really?
It'll work like that. Yeah,
That's crazy.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but
that is.
yeah. So there's a lot of things. A lot of it's integrating in like the corporate. So like because Amazon has Ring, there's these bigger companies that are kind of like dabbling in security here and there with like multi-level housing, you know, like new apartment buildings. They have like wireless locks now and all that other stuff. And so it's kind of integrating pretty fast on the software side. Like now you can answer your intercom to your company on Teams, and then you can like hit a button on Teams and it'll unlock the door. And so like it's the software side is it's playing very well with
like the actual software Teams, like we have meetings on at work. Oh, really?
Yeah. So like you can answer a Teams call and it's not a meeting, it's your intercom. And they're like, hey, I'm here to see whoever. And they're like, okay. And they can press a button on Teams and it'll unlock the door.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, like my mom, like she can just unlock her door with her phone.
Yeah, that too.
It's like, holy shit, man. But you ever get worried about like, you know, all this shit getting hacked? Or are they doing a pretty good job on that side too? Like, I know we talked about that a little earlier in the episode, but like, are they taking preventative measures? I mean, so stuff doesn't start getting, you know.
I mean, they're not taking enough to my standard, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I wish that they would lock it down like pretty heavy, you know. But you have to be, but I get the balance. You have to be connected to the world, you know. Like you're out there trying to get your product to be something that as many people can use as possible, because that means your business will be more successful. Yeah. So you have to do that. But
yeah, you're gonna have to give up some privacy and freedom for that. Yeah, that's always the.
But the cybersecurity side of it, man, they're like the cybersecurity industry is on their shit, man. They know what they're doing.
I thought about getting into cybersecurity. I was looking at them a couple years ago. I was looking at certain certs for that and seeing what I could do to get into that. But I keep weighing different opinions on the industry is getting too saturated now, and people are having a hard time finding jobs, and
that might be their personality.
Really?
Yeah, because I'll tell you, man, like it's just
maybe I should give that another go because I am interested in that.
It's just growing at such an incredible rate. Like you think that every like let's just say iPhone only, every iPhone that comes off the press is now like a threat point that's on the edge of some network, whether you're connected to Starbucks or your home network or your office or whatever. It's now a threat to that network. Yeah. So I could take my iPhone and use my iPhone for bad on any network that I can just drive down the street and connect to.
Yeah. I'd never seen this before, but I used to work at a company. I wasn't there at the time this happened, but they got hacked and they weren't able to pay their employees for like weeks. Yeah. And it was all from somebody opened up a fucking email, a phish email. And now, like when you go work there, because I ended up going back to work there for a little bit, you have to take a whole phish mail course, and like they explain to you what this email is like. You're supposed to report them and stuff like that. Like, and so it's a big deal. It's a big threat. Yeah. You know, it could really fuck up some stuff too for a business, or hell, like I said, even in a homeowner. You know, somebody, looking in your house and you don't even know the entire time, or hell, like those they even sell these things now to where you go to Airbnbs, which I've stayed at a lot, and I try to look through stuff. I've always been like that, looking in vents, seeing if I see anything.
No, for real,
some of these cameras are so small,
or they're built into the clock, or
but now they sell things that you can wave and they can detect electrical devices. And I don't know how all that works, but it's almost becoming that might be a necessary thing to keep in your tool bag.
No, for real. There's like little ones that are like, yay high, and they have like a spyglass through them, and it's red, and so you look through the glass and you're looking for the little like shine of the infrared of the camera. Because the camera,
because I heard a lot of the times that's what they're doing. They're putting it behind the mirrors. It's a see-through mirror.
Right. Yeah. So that's something to definitely keep in your tool bag, because that industry is crazy.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is going right online somewhere.
Yeah.
On the dark web.
I know, dude. Imagine how many people fuck, I hope I'm not on there.
You wouldn't even know, But
yeah, I hope I'm not on there.
But one spot where it's like getting really crazy in the cyber side of things is quantum computing.
Yeah.
And so like quantum computing in the most, degrading way I can explain it is like your computer works off ones and zeros. So the one is yes and the zero is no. And so it uses a bunch of those to solve a task, right? But quantum computing says that, let's say that it can say it's 4 different things, right? It's not just yes or no. It's yes and no, and it's no and yes, and it's yes and it's no. And so the quantum computer can take something that your computer needs 128 years to hack, and it can hack it in 12 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so a lot of people are like, oh man, when quantum computing gets to the level of like everyday use, no one's passwords are going to be safe. And that's been a big cry of quantum computing right now. But I actually think that is disregarding that if you can do that with quantum computing, you're going to be able to put quantum computing in your cybersecurity.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
And so then it's like fighting each other.
Yeah. If a market opens up of a threat of privacy, there's going to be also another to defend it.
Right.
So it's going to balance itself.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not as worried about it as some like alarmists.
Now, whether or not they catch up to one another,
yeah,
that's the question.
Before they blow up the world.
Yeah, who's going to be further ahead? Hopefully they're a little closer than what we
run
think.
a little faster than the next guy,
Yeah, or like CERN. Like, you ever heard of CERN?
Yeah,
the Quantum Collider.
That stuff's wild too.
Yeah, it's freaky shit, bro. I don't know if they're using quantum computers. I'm guessing that's probably what they're using.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, quantum computing is still pretty new.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple of companies that have it.
We did an episode on quantum physics. I wouldn't even be able to tell you exactly because that shit is a mind fuck. Bro.
Yeah.
The whole quantum physics. I don't
string
theories and shit. I just okay.
Yeah.
You sound smart, and this looks like something that's maybe legit. I have no idea.
Which until computing, it's like, did you really have a job, or were you just like talking, out your ass to say weird things?
Who knows, man? Who fucking knows?
But now it's like real, so it's like, okay, well, here we go.
Well, Baer, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been fun,
thank you, man.
Love your podcast, Security Today podcast.
Yep, at Security Today podcast.
Okay, I'll have all your stuff in the show notes.
Yeah,
and
LinkedIn,
stuff like
Instagram.
that.
And if anybody's listening to this and they had like a question about their home security or their business security or anything security related, like I do love this stuff. So
yeah,
and I love talking to people. So just DM me on any of those platforms.
Yeah, and even listen to your podcast, man. Like I said, like it's not one of those ones that's going to be boring as fuck, where you just listen to some dude read off a manual. Like, you make it fun, and I think people appreciate that. The people you interview, you were interviewing some lady from Spain, in one of the episodes. Yeah. So it's just cool how you're connected. I heard one guy, he was in New Jersey that you had interviewed. So like, I think it was New Jersey, somewhere over there. But it's like all these, you're able to connect with all these people, and they're giving really good advice, like on things that I've never thought about. And you may have some problems with the terminology a little bit. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm Googling shit, but hell, man.
That's good though. That's
good. But it's a lot of other stuff like, the lights and the grid map and all that shit, man. That's all really cool stuff that I think people need to know, especially if you own a home, you have kids, you have people you love, and you want to protect them. Security is the best. I mean, you got to
be thinking about it.
You got to be thinking about it all the time. And you got to implement it at some point.
Right.
And you got to stop thinking that money's a factor. Like I look at security as like a tattoo. It's like, are you going to skimp out on you going to tell the tattoo guy, like, hey, I only got $100. Like, he's going to probably give you $100 tattoo. You're not going to like it. Same thing with security cameras. You're going to get some bullshit some guy put up there that's going to work for 3 months, and it's going to go out, and then you're not going to want to pay for somebody else to come out and put in a more expensive system. Right. Yeah, then you're in the hole. And you could have just went to a guy like yourself and been taken care of.
Right,
so
definitely.
But I appreciate it, man. Do you got anything coming up? Anything you want to throw out there? All good?
I mean, so my podcast is kind of on a break right now, but we're planning to come back in Q2.
Good, bring it back. No more breaks.
Yeah,
bring
some
it back,
more content. I took a break because I'm like trying to start a side business. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
well, I get that. Yeah, take care of your personal life first.
Right,
the podcast can wait on that.
Yeah, but it's all in the same field, so
that's good, man. That's good.
Create content around that.
Hey, Baer, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it too. Thank you.